Earlier this week, the Prime Minister announced that all the restrictions imposed on our behaviour by law during the pandemic are to be lifted. The announcement has not been without its critics. In our churches, we perhaps have a particular duty to care for those who remain vulnerable and remain anxious. But the announcement has been widely hailed as a welcome return to normality. Barely 24 hours after making it, the Prime Minister had to respond to the crisis that is unfolding in Ukraine as a consequence of Russia's aggressive action there. The threat of war is serious. I pray that whenever it is that you listen to this, it will remain just a threat. But tragically, there's a sense in which the escalation of tension and the build-up of troops in the landmass of Europe or Eurasia is also a return to normality. The history of the continent, the history of the world, can be written as the history of conflict. I've been ordained for more than 20 years. I don't think there's been one Sunday when I have not heard or offered prayer for peace somewhere. Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Crimea, Yemen, the list goes on and on. It's terrifying. It's desperate. But I fear it's normal. The need for making sacrifices may be passing, but the need for making peace is not. So, we long to return to one normality, that of travelling and visiting and shopping without let, hindrance, or need to wear a face covering. Yet we would be horrified to return to another reality, that of violence and bloodshed and misery. Returning. An influential strand of the Christian tradition uses the metaphor of a journey from one place to another to describe our passage through life. Think of Pilgrim's Progress and of the arduous route that Christian takes, overcoming obstacles, battling assailants, and withstanding temptations until the celestial city is reached. He who would valiant be, let him come hither. It's a struggle. Teresa of Avila uses the same metaphor in the interior castle, but uses it differently. Through chamber after chamber, mansion after mansion, the soul is awakened, the soul is purged, the soul draws closer and closer to union with God. Neither John Bunyan nor Teresa appear to set much store by returning anywhere, least of all to normality. The call is always onwards to what is beyond. This one thing I do, writes Paul to the Philippians, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead, I press on towards the goal for the prize of the heavenly call of God in Christ Jesus. As we enter the third year of the pandemic, as restrictions are eased, perhaps we need to think less about returning to anything and more about moving towards something. In our international relations, certainly, and at home, where our rediscovered liberties must be balanced by recalibrated responsibilities. A new settlement, yes, even a new normal. But there needs to be absolutely nothing normal about this normality. We have nothing to fear. If we press the journey metaphor to its conclusion, we'll find that it's circular. Bunyan's celestial city, Teresa's spiritual union, Paul's heavenly call. Each of these evokes that from which we have come. For you and I have come from God, and we are going to God. We are returning. And I suspect that although we cannot know it yet, what we are returning to will seem like the greatest normality of all. It is that for which we have been made. No one has put it better than T.S. Eliot, and it's with him that I'll leave you. And the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Thank you for listening.